American Bridge 21st Century, and Maura Gillespie, founder and principal at Blue Stack Strategies. So, Pat, obviously this is one of the benefits of incumbency when you're campaigning for re-election. You get to go do these big foreign trips and have all of the merits of the presidency, if you will, while doing so. How politically important is it for Biden when he's doing things like holding a joint presser with Vladimir Zelensky in Italy tomorrow?
Yeah. And look, something that's really important is the contrast with Donald Trump. When you saw Donald Trump go to these big meetings in the past, he would be fighting with people. He would be trying to, divide people, causing chaos. And what you see really with Biden is leadership, right? He's there with Zelensky. He's showing our friends, we're with you. We will stay with you. We will fight with you. And that's really important. The contrast, reminding people what it was like, the chaos of the Trump administration, is probably the most important political thing here.
Maura, the president apologized to Volodymyr Zelensky last week in Normandy for the delay in coming up with funding for Ukraine. And we all went through this in real time together for many months. With a lot of Republicans in the House particularly pushing back on the idea of continuing to fund the war effort in Ukraine. This news conference they're going to hold tomorrow is almost the final answer to that 6-month-long debate. What should be President Biden's posture when it comes to this, knowing Republican lawmakers are listening?
It's going to be about reaffirming America's role in the world, but also as an ally. Where do we stand? Do we stand with our allies, or do we hide, behind political, misgivings about where the money is going and where it's being spent? I think it's really important that he reaffirms to Zelensky, but signals to the world that we aren't just going to cower away. We will be there for our allies and support them, and they should do the same. I think talking to world leaders on this front is really important, especially for a pro-democracy stance. And again, we talked about this as the president went overseas for D-Day. It's really important to keep politics at the water's edge and focus on America's role. And as our commander-in-chief, as the leader of the free world, that's what he should be doing.
Well, Maura, we were just speaking with Anne-Marie Hordern, our colleague who is on the ground there right now, who was talking about how a lot of the officials there are bracing for a potential Trump administration, and how the things that Joe Biden may promise this week aren't necessarily going to be held up on the other end if Donald Trump becomes the one to hold the Oval Office. How concerned should our allies be about that prospect?
Well, I think it signals to us here at home the fact that people around the world are concerned about our elections is just another reminder about where we stand. People watch everything that we do. We are, America is focused on, unlike any place else in the world. And our politics are, the world's politics, essentially. And so it really does matter when we talk about where we stand with our allies and our role. And an isolationist mentality is not going to behoove us as a nation, but it does not help the rest of the world. And it's important for us to reaffirm our commitments. And I think with Donald Trump, he has been erratic, to say the least, about certain things when it comes to foreign policy. And so, I'll be interested to see what happens, in a few weeks from now for the first presidential debate, to see what kind of stance and posture he takes when talking about foreign policy. But his boasting about relationships with tyrants and, the likes of Vladimir Putin does not really impress me, nor should it impress the American people.
That was in the wake of the Hunter Biden guilty verdict, Maura. Should we be thanking that or holding in contempt the Attorney General?
They're separate issues, quite frankly. And I think, again, regardless of how you view this or how you see this move by Congress to hold him in contempt of Congress, the fact remains that he ignored a subpoena. I believe he ignored two. So, again, from a outside looking in perspective, that's what happened. That's just the facts. And doing so allows Congress to vote you in contempt. So, I think that separately, again, we already have the transcript, so it does just seem to be not wanting to give in to Congress. And I think that comes across as I know better than you type of mentality. And that doesn't sit well with folks. And I think, again, looking at this from a step back, yes, do I think it's going to play a role in the 2024 election? No, I do not. But we've gotten to a point now in politics where everything that you do is viewed through a political lens. For honestly, for worse, because I don't believe that's how our Constitution was designed to set up our institutions, was not to view it so that everyone would be in trouble for taking a right step instead of a left step. I think that we've gotten so in the weeds on everything that we've now scared people from wanting to be in public office. I don't know that this would really, if anything, this is going to encourage people not to run or not to hold public service positions. And that to me is a huge disappointment. That's probably the biggest frustration for me to watch this unfold, because it is just playing tit for tat for Americans to watch and see who's going after who this week. But the facts remain that he did ignore a subpoena, so he was held in contempt.
All right, well, that's what happened in Congress today. What's happening in Congress tomorrow is Donald Trump is meeting with Republicans in both the House and the Senate. And we had some reaction to that news from Congressman Pete Aguilar, the Democrat from California, earlier today.
This is just another, example of House Republicans bending the knee to Donald Trump. He wants them to impeach Joe Biden. They failed at that. Now they're moving on to Merrick Garland. Censures, impeachments. That's just how dysfunctional the House Republican conference is.
Maura, what is tomorrow's meeting really about for both congressional Republicans and for Donald Trump?
Donald Trump is still looking for a vice president, and he is still preparing for debates coming up. So you both know this. I am no fan of Donald Trump as a former president. I'm not looking forward to the 2024 election between these octogenarian choices. But I don't think that this is as newsy as, Congressman Aguilar is making it out to be some sort of plot twist sort of thing. I think that, as a candidate leading the Republican Party, does this have to happen on Capitol Hill? Probably not. They could have gone down anywhere else and had this conversation. But it's not completely abnormal to want to know kind of what the legislative outlook is for the next year, should he win, kind of getting a plan together so that they can come up with policies that are doable, viable, but also benefit the American people, and something that he can run with and run on. But again, I think the other factor there is the vice president pick. He still hasn't decided, and this could give him an opportunity to get a better sense of how things are going in Congress.